America, you in trouble, girl. We need to talk about what's happening, how we got here, and how you can become an active part of the solution. Welcome to Anti-Racism School is in session.
Anti-racism school is in session. What? It's in session. Anti-racism is not a diet, it's a lifestyle commitment. 365 days a year. Live a life that's anti-racist. Ashini teaching you, giving you that truth with love, straight with no chaser. Understand, graceful and mindful. Open your third eye and take off your blindfold. You ain't gotta agree to understand, but understand you gotta take a stand. Anti-racism school is in session. What? It's in session. Anti-racism school is in session. What? It's in session.
Ashini Mafuko wants to educate people about racism. She created a family-friendly monthly seminar called Anti-Racism School is in Session. And every month, she'll be talking about different ways to be anti-racist.
Welcome back to Anti-Racism School is in Session, Season 2. Giving you an uncommon perspective to common issues related to anti-Black racism and systemic racism in America. I'm your host, Ashini Mfuko, cultural competency coach, confident communication strategist, producer, and digital content creator. My mission is to create a safer, more beautiful, more equitable world for all people. And this podcast, my Patreon community, and my educational trainings and challenges are some of the ways that I do that every single day. Okay, back to the good old United States of America. Whew, there's one thing I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, and that is you cannot run from your past. You can try, but you will not succeed. I mean, imagine going to the doctor with some very serious, concerning symptoms that you want help with. But when your doctor asks you about your medical history and what happened before you came to the doctor's office that may have caused these symptoms to flare up, you say, let's leave the past in the past. I mean, we don't need to talk about the past. Let's leave it there and move on. Huh? Your doctor would look at you like, wait, do you really want to heal and get better? Or are you just looking for some temporary situation to make you feel better? You want to ignore the root cause of your symptoms, pretend like it never happened, and then get some medicine which will only provide you with temporary relief, while the real issue, the root cause of your ailment, remains unaddressed. Well, if you're America, your response would be, give me the medicine for the symptoms, doc. I don't want to face my past. It makes me too uncomfortable. Listen, your past will haunt you everywhere you go. It will trigger you. It will activate you in negative and harmful ways if you do not accept it, acknowledge it, address it, and repair it. Because the more you try to run away from your past, the more it will continue to manifest itself in your present life and situation. And in America, the powers that be, those who hold the most positions of power, wealth, and influence in our government, in our educational institutions, in the mainstream media, the healthcare system, and now in media and technology, the powers that be have continuously, historically, and in the present day chosen to lie, deny, deflect, defend, rewrite, whitewash, misinform, and legislate against telling and acknowledging the truth and the facts about America's horrific, violent, evil, and systemically racist past. So what ends up happening? It keeps haunting us. It keeps showing up. And instead of accepting it, acknowledging it, addressing it, and working to repair the generational trauma, violence, and damage that it has caused up until this present day, the powers that be continue to run from it, continue to lie about it, deny it, defend it, downplay it, justify it, and create laws and policies that punish those who have the courage and integrity, morals, ethics, and decency to speak up, speak the facts, and tell the truth about our country's history. That's why I said at the beginning of the show, America, you in trouble, girl. Because when your past that you've been running away from for decades, or in this case, centuries, finally catches up with you, it's not pretty. See, the thing about lying is that in order to cover up your lie, you have to tell more lies and more lies and more lies. So you get deeper and deeper in this abyss of dishonesty and the dehumanization of yourself and others because you start to defend the indefensible to cover up your lies. You start to engage in DARVO, which is an acronym for Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim, and Offender. It describes a behavioral pattern that some people use when held accountable for bad behavior, such as deflecting blame and responsibility. It's considered a common manipulation tactic used by psychological abusers and perpetrators of wrongdoing, including sexual offenders. Now, in the first episode of my first season of this podcast, I talked to you about what happens when the story of your abuse is told by your abuser. I highlighted that you will never get an accurate description or depiction of the psychological trauma, physical, and emotional harm of the abuse that you have endured if your abuser is the one who gets to tell the story of how they abused you. That is also the case if your abuser's family or friends get to determine how the story of your abuse is told, especially when they are the ones who have the power to create the systems and the policies and the practices and put it into books and control the narrative in the media about the abuse that they have inflicted upon you. If they are telling the story, it will be their version. And what I just described to you is exactly a part of the story of the United States of America. There has been a constant stream of intentional, calculated lies from our elected officials and leaders at every level of society. The denial of the truth about our history and how it directly connects to and impacts what we see happening in America today. There has been a calculated and intentional misuse and demonization of our resistance movements and our words used to describe our struggles and the fight for racial healing, justice, and equity. Just look at what they have done, how they have completely twisted the word woke, which simply means to be awake and aware of issues related to racial injustice and racial discrimination, and you want to do something about it. They've demonized you being awake and aware of these issues that harm your friends, your neighbors, your fellow church members, and they've turned it into a racist dog whistle, a racial slur that ignites the bigotry of their loyal followers while promoting and rewarding ignorance about racial and social justice issues. How can you heal something that we refuse to acknowledge or talk about with honesty, facts, empathy, and compassion? Not to mention, they have the nerve to legalize unfair, unethical, unjust, arbitrary, biased, cruel, and discriminatory discipline, punishment, and defunding of those who tell the whole truth or teach the undeniable, indisputable facts about our country's history. Ain't that something? What do they have to hide? They would rather lie, deny, discriminate, and promote miseducation, reward racial ignorance, and intentionally harm millions of Americans as well as Black and brown immigrants instead of facing the truth and the facts, accepting accountability for it, and doing everything in their power to repair the generational violence, trauma, damage, discrimination, disenfranchisement, dehumanization, criminalization, and marginalization of Black people for centuries. But hey, don't take my word for it. Let's look at a present-day example of what happens when your elected officials and leaders choose to run away from the past, lie about it, and tell the abuser's version of the story of their abuse against you. Now, before I give you this present-day example, remember this important fact about abusers and those who choose to support, lie about, hide, deny, and defend your abuser. Abusers never want to be viewed as being bad people or a bad person. They want other people to admire them, look up to them, and think that they are a great person, even though their actions clearly say otherwise. That's why they only want their version of the story of their abuse towards you to be told. They have to silence you, threaten, and punish you and anyone who believes you or supports you because they don't want to look bad. And let me tell you something. They will go to great lengths to ensure that they do not look like the abuser or an abuser enabler like they actually are. So let's look at a prime example of this on display in a recent executive order from our current president. This executive order is entitled Ending Radical Indoctrination in K-12 Schooling. It was signed on January 29th, 2025, and I will post a link to it in the description of this podcast episode. Here's a snippet from Part B of Section 2 entitled Definitions. This is about to be real interesting, y'all, but just roll with me, okay? Discriminatory equity ideology means an ideology that treats individuals as members of preferred or disfavored groups rather than as individuals and minimizes agency, merit, and capability in favor of immoral generalizations, including that members of one race, color, sex, or national origin are morally or inherently superior to members of another race, color, sex, or national origin, which, by the way, is the definition of racism. And this means that you basically cannot talk about racism. Part 2, an individual by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. So once again, this means that you cannot talk about the facts and the truth of white people's racist history in America and how it has been passed down from generation to generation through systems and laws and policies and practices and religion and patriarchy, etc. This is meant to silence our voices, okay, and prevent us from speaking the truth. Number 3, an individual's moral character or status as privileged, oppressing, or oppressed is primarily determined by the individual's race, color, or national origin. Here we go again. Now you're not allowed to accurately describe what white people's role has been throughout history as the architects of white supremacy culture, systemic racism, anti-black racism, the oppression, dehumanization, criminalization, marginalization of black people, indigenous people, and other people of color in America. We can't talk about that because we can't state the actual facts using factual words. Let's skip to Part 5. Part 5, an individual by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin bears responsibility or should feel guilt, anguish, or other forms of psychological distress because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, sex, or national origin by which the individual is a part of. Again, do not talk about white supremacy, white people's history, or the systems of oppression that they have built against black people. This is what it's saying, y'all. This is an executive order. This is unbelievable in the 2020s, okay? It's absolutely, utterly ridiculous and openly racist. Let's keep going. Virtues such as merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectivity, and racial colorblindness are racist or sexist or were created by members of a particular race, color, sex, or national origin to oppress members of another race, sex, color, or national origin. Let's look at Part 8. You also cannot describe the United States as being fundamentally racist, sexist, or otherwise discriminatory. In Part D, it says that patriotic education means a presentation of the history of America grounded in an accurate, honest, unifying, inspiring, and ennobling characterization of America's founding and foundational principles. So this is what I'm talking about. Lies on top of lies on top of lies, trying to rewrite, whitewash, and control the story of the history of abuse against us. Right from our government, right from the office of the president. What a time to be alive. What a disgusting and deplorable time to be alive. How can you give an accurate and honest depiction of U.S. history without talking about systemic racism, anti-black racism, the lie of white supremacy, chattel slavery, and the ongoing epidemic of racial violence, white racial violence specifically? It's not possible. And that would be a lie. And that is the point. That is the goal. To prevent the truth and the facts from being told so that our abusers can continue to push their version of the story of their abuse towards us. It's deplorable. It's gross. It's immoral. It's unethical. And these calculated, legalized lies will never help to promote or create or achieve racial justice, racial healing, or racial unity. So what are some things you can do now to stand up against the systemic lies of anti-Black racism? Number one, learn the facts about American history. You can't teach or speak about what you don't know. Get educated. That's number one. Number two, learn from racial justice and anti-racism experts about how the legacy of our past is showing up today. You have to learn how to connect the dots and recognize when people in positions of power are trying to reenact the racist evil from the past in our present day society. If you don't learn from our past, you're doomed to repeat it. Number three, don't be silent. Don't be a silent partner in racism. Do you know what a silent partner in racism is? It's someone who sees racist behaviors, policies, laws, practices, or even conversations happening, and they do nothing about it. They just remain silent. That's harmful. It's dangerous. And your inaction makes you complicit in this systemic and interpersonal abuse. Are you okay with that? If you're not, then it's your responsibility to unlearn your own internalized racism that you've developed just by being born and raised in a racist society by no fault of your own, I might add. Then continue to educate yourself and others. Speak up, speak out, organize, mobilize, and vote for elected officials who have a high level of cultural competency, compassion, and empathy in their leadership. Support those who demonstrate anti-racist values and principles and practices, not just in their words, but through their actions and the outcomes that they help to produce. Take strategic action against people, places, and policies that seek to continue this evil, demonic, deplorable, and desperate legacy of anti-Black racism and the lie of white supremacy. I'm here to support you on your journey, but I can't do the work for you. So if you want to learn more about how you can become an active part of the solution instead of just being a passive part of the problem, you can join my Anti-Racism Schools in Session community on Patreon and be in a safe space where you can get educated, get informed, and get to work. Remember, I don't believe what you profess. I believe what you produce. Your good intentions are not enough. You feeling bad about what's happening isn't enough. Put your words and your feelings into strategic action today, folks, okay? It's time to wake up and do better. Don't talk about it.
Anti-racism school is in session. It's in session.
Welcome to my new segment called #Shop Black, Buy Black, and Support Black-owned businesses, where I'll be sharing some of my favorite products and services and books that you need to read that are probably on the banned book list every episode of this show. So let's get into it. First up is this beautiful outfit that I'm wearing right now. So if you're watching the video version of the podcast, you can see I am wearing this very vibrant, beautiful Africa-inspired outfit from Beautiful Creations. She has the most stylish and beautiful clothes that will help you to stand out, that will increase your confidence and just make you look good and feel good. And who doesn't want that? So make sure you check out Beautiful Creations. You can follow them on Instagram, and you can also visit their website for beautiful fashions. It's not all, African type of print inspired clothing. It's all different types of styles and fashion for women of all sizes, ages, backgrounds, everything. So make sure you check them out. Next up is one of my favorite makeup brands. I'm slightly obsessed with them. If you watch my videos on social media, you've probably seen me wearing something from this brand, which is the Lip Bar. I absolutely love the Lip Bar. I have 5 lipstick and glosses from them in my hand right now. I am definitely a makeup girly, a beauty girly, all of those things. Fashion, makeup, beauty, everything. So if you are like me, or you want to dabble in kind of adding some pizzazz to your look, the Lip Bar is absolutely the brand that you should be checking out, okay? So they have a website. They're also sold in different stores. You can check them out at the Lip Bar. And last but not least, here is a book that you need to read yesterday. I don't know what you've been doing, but you should be reading, and you definitely need to read this one called Protecting My Peace by Elizabeth Leiba. embracing inner beauty and ancestral power. I love it. Liz is one of my peers, one of my colleagues, one of my friends in this space of anti-racism and leadership, and I absolutely love her and love the work that she does. Liz is a 3-time best-selling author of I'm Not Yelling, Protecting My Peace, and I Came to Slay. So you definitely need to read this book, read all 3 of her best-selling books, get to it. You're going to be educated, you're going to be enlightened, you're going to be inspired, you're going to be empowered, and you won't be the same after you read one of Liz's books. So make sure you check her out too. And last but not least, let's not forget that we live in the world of social media every day. That's probably how you found me and connected with me. So make sure that you're intentionally supporting the Black content creators and Black educators and writers and authors and influencers and activists that you follow on social media. You can always go to the link in their profile, in my profile, and find ways to support. People have a Substack now, or a Patreon, or they have a book, or they're selling products or programs or challenges or communities. If they have events, make sure you're intentional about supporting Black creators online and in real life. Thank you for joining me for today's learning experience. And remember, anti-racism is not a diet, it's a lifestyle. I'll see you next time.
Anti-racism school is in session. What? It's in session. Anti-racism is not a diet, it's a lifestyle.